Voters in the city of Warren will elect a new city treasurer. Hello, I'm Charlie Langton, and tonight, TV Warren is proud to present the debate between the candidates wanting to be the next city treasurer, those candidates being Mark Steenberg and Carolyn Kurkowski-Mosheri. This is the only face-to-face debate that these candidates will do during this election. Let's meet the candidates now. She is completing 4 years on the Warren City Council. She is a small business owner, and she is married with 2 children in the Warren Consolidated School District. Please welcome Carolyn Kurkowski-Mosheri.
Good evening.
Her opponent, he is the current mayor of the city of Warren and has been for 12 years. He is also the longest-serving chairperson on the Macomb County Board of Commissioners. He is married with 5 children. Please welcome Mark Steenberg. Let's meet the panelists who will be asking the questions to the candidates. First, Brian Lowers from the Warren Weekly, Amber Hunt from the Detroit Free Press, and Rob Davidek, news director from WWJ News Radio 950. Tonight's debate will be divided into 3 parts. The candidates will first give an opening statement, followed by questions from the panelists, and then finally the candidates will wrap it up with a closing. I should point out that the candidates do not know the questions nor the topic areas, and any issue can be discussed in tonight's debate. Just prior to the debate, a coin toss occurred, and Mark Steenberg will give the first opening statement. Mr. Steenberg.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone here, including Councilwoman Mosheri, for this opportunity to debate. I've been fighting to protect taxpayers for my entire career. I stood up to City Council to bid out garbage contracts. And I stood up to them to bid out insurance coverages. I've stood up to them to get the best bid to redo the tank plant. I've stood up to City Council and city unions to stop out-of-control jackpot pensions. I fought Detroit over water rate increases. I've stood up to out-of-town landlords and apartment complex owners who, and recently the City Council has pulled the rug out from under me. I recently stood up to the State Department when they proposed to bring 15,000 unemployed Iraqi refugees to this area. I know that the positions I have taken are often criticized and very controversial, but I do it to protect us, the taxpayers, because it's the right thing to do. From my first day in office, I have fought to bring jobs and investment to Warren. We have seen over $7 billion in new investment and thousands of jobs come here. General Motors has spent over $1.5 billion and has moved more than 4,000 workers here. The tank plant has brought over 4,000 jobs and hundreds of millions of dollars in new investment. And now I'm asking you to consider bringing real leadership to the Treasurer's office. As taxpayers, you are consumers who deserve respect and courteous treatment. I have spent years actually running this city, and no one else on this ballot has more experience in the city's finances than I do. You can count on me to be a watchdog going forward to protect your tax dollars.
Thank you, Mark Steenberg. Next, Carolyn Kurkowski-Mosheri.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for being here and also for allowing me to be here. I am not a career politician who has built monuments. What I am, though, is a person who has accomplished far more things that are more modest, but they are honest. I have served 4 years on the Warren City Council, and in that time I have faced difficult and challenging issues. And what it has enabled me to do was learn the ins and outs of our local government. I do my homework on issues put before me, and I like to be prepared on the subjects that I'm having to be dealing with. My background as a business owner gives me valuable tools, such as being conservative when finances are involved, having a strong work ethic. I'm a motivator for team spirit, and I will ensure respectable workplace standards in the Treasurer's office. Customer service has always been paramount in my business dealings, and taxpayers will be greeted with compassion and respect. My opponent's office, his salutations are, if you don't like it, you can move. That will not be heard in the Treasurer's office. Being able to see the big picture as well as the little picture is what I bring to the mayor's office. Being able to see the big picture is great, but there's very many details that need to be addressed, and I'm the person that will be able to address those. I thank you again for allowing me to be here this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn Kurkowski-Mosheri. The second part of the debate will start, questions and answers. I'll start that by asking Carolyn Kurkowski-Mosheri. A lot of the residents may not know exactly what the job of the treasurer actually does. Perhaps you could tell us, what do you think the most important function of the treasurer actually is? Carolyn?
Safeguarding the money would have to be a paramount chore for the Treasurer's Department. You are taking 150,000 people's monies, and they're entrusting you with it. So you have to have a trust, and you have to have a compassion when taxes are involved, because very many people, they don't know what taxes are. They just know that they have to pay them. So I believe trusting the person who's the treasurer and safeguarding our money would be paramount, but only second to educating educating our seniors so they know exactly what taxes they're paying and why they're paying them.
Thank you. Mark Steenberg, rebuttal.
I believe that the investment power of the monies collected by the city, my opponent has just said 50,000 people. There are about 138,000 people in our city, and I believe that also that it's paramount in how we handle those dollars. We bring in roughly $215 million a year for all the taxing agencies in the city, whether it be the schools, the Macomb Community College, Macomb Intermediate School District. We distribute those monies back to those schools. What we need to do with our city money is make sure that we maximize our investments, that we invest in safe, secured instruments. And in my case, I would move more monies into federally insured instruments so that we can maximize our investment return, which would allow us to ease the burden on our taxpayers for the overall city budget.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Steenberg. Brian Lowers of the Warren Weekly will ask the next question to Mark Steenberg. Brian?
Mark, you just touched on my question a little bit. I was just wondering what your investment strategy would be, specifically with regard to the city funds.
Well, currently, over 90% of the city's monies are invested in non-secured instruments, in equities and other forms of paper investments. I would move more of our monies, especially in these hard economic times, these uncertain times, into federally insured programs. I would use more U.S. Treasuries. I would seek on a daily basis, though, to find the best investments that we could do, the most secured and least risk kinds of investments through the banks, and make sure that we maximize that return. Again, the return on our monies is a big part of the revenue source to this city, and by maximizing those investments, we ease the burden on the taxpayers for funding our budget.
Carolyn Kurkowski-Mosheri.
Great, thank you very much. My opponent speaks of investments and securing the investments for our city monies. The FDIC, which is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, guarantees $150,000 of insurance on monies. That means if you have $1 million, you're only insured for $150,000. That goes for individuals, for businesses, and it also goes for units of government. That's all they will insure, period. The Treasury Department takes in $300 million. You would need over 2,000 banks if you were to put $150,000 in each bank. The state of Michigan doesn't even have 1,000 local banks that can do that. So I'm a bit bewildered on how the mayor would qualify this, as there's not that many banks in Michigan that would be capable of handling that money.
All right. Next question from Rob Davidoff, WWJ. Please ask Carolyn Kurkowski-Mosheri. Rob?
Ma'am, the city assesses a 1% collection fee on other units of government and collection. Do you support keeping that collection and continuing it?
Actually, that is a wonderful question, and that is something that back in 2003 I campaigned on, and that was the elimination of the 1% collection fee. The 1% collection fee was actually a bridge when they changed over on how our taxes were supposed to be handled, and it was only supposed to be for a short amount of time. Now it's become a mainstay of the Treasurer's Department. I've tried to institute, when I first started in the council's position, to eliminate that 1% fee on a 10% reduction per year. So it wouldn't be a hit real fast, but it would be a reduction to that the Treasurer's Department can make up and that the people will not be pinched tight for.
Mark Steenberg, rebuttal.
Well, the councilwoman has said that, but she absolutely did vote for the 1% collection fee, and she's on record doing that. But her last statements that only X amount of monies can be invested in federally insured instruments, I'd like to clarify that and say that what I just said is that we would look for more U.S. Treasuries. We can buy as many of those as we want. We can work on more fixed instruments that are less risky and still maximize the city's investment. There are treasurers around the state that have put monies into very risky offshore investments and so forth and have squandered all the people's money. I want to make sure we're maximizing our returns while we're reducing our risk. The 1% collection fee, if we didn't do it and we didn't collect it in the city of Warren, people would have to go to probably 5 or 6 different locations to pay their taxes. It's a part of administering the tax system.
Rob Davidoff, follow-up question?
He just actually at the end of that, he answered it. I didn't know if he was going to get there or not. So.
Okay, then we'll go to Amber Hunt from the Free Press. Amber, please ask Mark Steenberg the next question.
Hello, sir. First, I'll give you a reality. Obviously, state revenue sharing is down, which means that every city is pinched. Now I have hypothetical, since you're wanting to handle the city's money. If you had to streamline costs within the Treasury Department, how would you do that?
Well, you work with the mayor, first of all, to create your budget to actually take care of cost of running your department. So, you know, whatever you work out with the mayor on an annual basis to complete your budget is where you were. But I've been on record for 5 years of making, cuts in the city. They've been unpopular. I've cut personnel. I've cut at the wastewater treatment plant, for instance. We had 64 personnel running that plant when I got there. There's about 42 running that now. And most of the cuts that have occurred in this city, whether it be firemen or anyone else, is because we lost over $5 million a year in revenue sharing cuts. I don't think there's any candidate for any office in this election that understands the magnitude of revenue sharing cuts more than I do. I bit the bullet. I had the courage to stand up to do it, and I did it so that we didn't have to raise taxes.
All right. A rebuttal, Carolyn Krukowski-Mosheri?
Yes, I would like to first start out with saying that the 1% collection fee is part of the mayor's budget, which my opponent is the mayor. It was his budget. We have tried unsuccessfully to get that cut, but unfortunately we weren't able to in the budget. Fortunately, other things were taken care of in this budget, such as the police and fire, which I considered paramount in this budget to our safety of our residents. I find it ironic that the mayor says that he has cut, yes he has cut every department except in the mayor's department. The mayor's department is still fully staffed as it's always been. If we're going to streamline the Treasurer's Department, then we would have to look at a couple unfilled vacancies that haven't been filled in several years. If we're going to make cuts, then we should get rid of the things that we aren't using and that aren't necessary. That's just common business practice. So I would like to start off and find out what excess we have, and the only way to get into that is to get in there and find out.
Right.
Thank you.
Amber Hunt, follow-up question?
Have you gotten to the point where you've done enough research to be familiar with what some of those excesses might be?
Go to Carolyn.
Well, as my opponent has brought up, every department has been slashed. If anything, I do believe there is 2 unfilled positions. I believe if we wanted to streamline our department, that would probably be a very good place to start. But to make a sweeping gesture right here, to make it sound like I'm going to, cut taxes, I would rather go into the Treasurer's Department, see how it actually runs, how it's performing, who's doing the performing and who's underperforming, and then make recommendations based on what I see. Thank you.
Mark Steenberg, rebuttal?
Yeah, I'd work with the mayor to try to come up with a budget that would work for the Treasurer's Department and make the department as whole as I could and fight for my department. But yet, I understand if revenue sharing gets cut that everybody pays a price. She is just absolutely wrong, and she's lied about the mayor's budget because we've cut our positions as well inside the mayor's office. And so I've worked with temporary people to support us because we've lost full-time staff. And we've worked very hard across the board to make sure that we could make ends meet. Cities all around us have raised taxes enormously. Some cities have raised it by as much as 5 mills and 7 mills. We held the line on taxes in this city. We swallowed those hard decisions by cutting. It wasn't easy. It took courage to stand up and do that. Anybody can point fingers and talk about, you know, what they're going to do, but when it gets right down to it, it's very hard to balance a budget.
All right. Brian Lowers of the Warren Weekly, please ask Carolyn Krukowski-Mersheri the next question. Brian?
Carolyn, people hate paying their taxes. Is there anything that you would propose to do to make the process kinder, gentler, maybe even easier for folks to come into City Hall, those who don't escrow and write that check and then pay their taxes?
Yes, I think there are several things that we can do, and paramount would be during the peak season of taxes. The way our new City Hall is designed, you have to park in a parking structure, you have to walk in or go up an elevator, which is quite confusing to many people. What I suggest that we do is we set up a temporary tax department rate in our, I guess you call it, the atrium. And this would allow seniors to be able to come in, drop off their taxes. They could walk back to their car. They wouldn't have to get confused by the parking structure. I would also like to have educational forms for people so they understand what their taxes are. I would like to do those on a quarterly basis every year to allow them to understand what the taxes are and what we're paying for and why they're paying it at that time. That's what I would like to do.
Mark Steenberg, rebuttal.
Well, the design of the new City Hall and actually the design of the old City Hall was set up for security. We have enormous amounts of money that come into the City Hall. That's why we have glass, and that's why there are protections. And the new City Hall was designed to look into the future so that we would have even more protections for the employees and for those that are collecting the monies to make sure that it's a secured environment that where bad things couldn't occur. I know that it's taken some time for people to get used to the new City Hall and to find out where the new offices are, but we've had enormously good comments and responses. I know that it's never comfortable to come and pay your taxes. I don't know exactly what I could do to make people feel better, but I would insist on good customer service where the employees treated people with respect and dignity, were courteous, and if they had questions, they could answer their questions and take care of people's concerns.
All right. Rob Davidoff, please ask Mark Steenberg the next question. Rob?
Sir, what's your favorite website? And also, and the reason I ask that is, how do you see the internet playing a role in your job and making it easier for residents to do services with the Treasurer's office?
Well, I would strive, and I've said it in my literature to the folks out there, I would strive to make us a more interactive office where you could pay water bills, you could pay taxes online. We need to work on our website inside City Hall to accommodate some of those things. It took us an enormous amount of time just to bring direct payment of bills to our city. So I would work with the new technology that we installed in this City Hall to make sure that we could move into the future and be a much more proactive government in dealing with folks who need to access our websites to understand what their taxes are and how they might pay their water bills or their taxes online.
Same question, Carolyn Krukowski-Mersheri.
Well, I understand that we do have a website, and as a councilwoman last year or about 18 months ago, we paid a considerable amount of money to have our new website put up. So we do have a website. I would also like to inform the residents of the City of Warren, as well as my opponent, that we've had the ability to pay our taxes online for the last 5 years. That was instituted by our current Treasurer, Marilyn Marchinsky-Morocco. You can also pay your taxes via the telephone using Visa and MasterCard. We do not collect a fee for that, but the Visa and MasterCard do, so kind of be worried about that one. We've been online, again, for over 5 years. What's not been online is the water department, which is directly under my opponent's control. It's sad to say that in the year 2007 that we cannot pay our water bills online. That is directly the mayor's department. Thank you.
I'll follow up with that question. I want to know the favorite website of the candidates. And can you really pay your taxes online right now, Mark Steenberg?
I believe that you can't. I believe that we need to move to be able to have electronic transfer to do that. It's my understanding that we cannot do that at this time, and that we need, to improve our website conditions to be able to accommodate that. And those are some of the tenets that I would try to do, is to use technology, and certainly all the technology that we paid for to put into this building to create a web that would allow for this activity.
Okay. Carolyn, rebuttal to that?
My website is National Geographic's. That is my favorite website. Again, we can pay them online. The one that you cannot pay online is the water department. That is directly under my opponent's control. I verified this with the city clerk, or with the city treasurer, with the deputy treasurer. It's online. As I said, over 18 months ago, we paid quite considerably, you, the residents of Warren, for a website. If this website is not all that it should be, I would consider that would be the ineptitude of the administration. That's all.
Okay. Amber Hunt, next question, please, to Carolyn Kurkowski-Mosheri. Amber?
If you had to spell out your number one complaint with how the office is run right now, what would that be, and what kind of change would you bring to it?
The number one complaint that I hear is that it's inaccessible. People wanted to run in and pay their taxes. For many years, we were spoiled with pull your car up in front, run in, pay your taxes, and leave. It's a little bit more cumbersome now. So again, I would like to go back to having it in the lobby so people can park right on the street. They can run in. They can truly make it feel like a small town feel. That's what we had with our old city hall. We had a hometown feel, and it's something that's missing in our new city hall. And I think bringing it downstairs, making it more accessible would be a number one paramount thing. There's many handicapped people. There are many seniors in the city of Warren that would like to utilize the atrium.
Mark Steenberg, rebuttal?
Well, again, the new city hall and new central library, which is, use is way up, is really more friendly for everyone, for the library users, for those who would come in for building permits or other permitting things for our departments, whether it's assessing, building, planning, etc. We've made it one-stop shopping. We've refacilitated the facility so that people that use this facility every day can come and do one-stop shopping, if you will. So I know it's been uncomfortable, but again, this building comes as a result of a lot of studies between General Motors and the Downtown Development Authority, and there is a plan to build as much as $500 million to almost $1 billion worth of downtown structures around there that have become taxable. And so I know it's a change, but I hope people could get used to it.
All right, we only have time for a very quick follow-up. Amber, do you have that follow-up real quick?
Yes. Okay, so previously you had, Mr. Steenberg, you had mentioned a security issue in terms of how the new building was designed. What's that issue, and how would you address that as well?
Quickly, though. But go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Again, we built the Treasurer's office with the highest amount of security that we could at this point in time. It's a completely secured facility. It has a better safe. It has much better security than the old City Hall. And, there was a lot of forethought and a lot of planning, a lot of architectural, study went into that. And it's a much better and more secure facility for the taxpayers, for the employees that work there, and for, taking in our monies.
Carolyn, you can respond.
All I can tell you, residents, is that I've had complaints, plain and simple. When the residents speak, I listen. It's not very accessible, and I'm trying to make the Treasurer's Department accessible. It's kind of unique to talk about security of the Treasurer's Department in a brand new building, but actually, when the building was designed, it was designed without the proper cement on the floor, and it had to go in and be reinforced so they could put a safe in. Actually, the original design, there was no safe in the Treasurer's Department, and can be verified by several of the Treasurer's Department employees. Again, let's bring it downstairs, let's make it back to our hometown feel, and make it accessible for the handicapped and the senior citizens.
All right, that will end that part of the debate. Lots were drawn before the debate to determine the speaking order for the closing statements, and Mark Steenberg will give the first closing statement.
In this race for treasurer, there are some clear differences between me and my opponent. I stopped jackpot pensions, I've trimmed employment, and I did this to avoid tax increases. My opponent has been endorsed by the Firefighters Union and the ASME Union because she's promised to help them get their jackpot pensions back. Anything that happens that increases staffing or anything will require raising taxes. I've aggressively tried to inspect apartment complexes. My opponent has been against inspecting apartment complexes. I instituted the blight court. My opponent has opposed the blight court at every turn. And if we could afford tax breaks, I would give them to the elderly that are on fixed incomes or the working poor. My opponent has said that if registered sex offenders are banned from our parks, then that they absolutely deserve a tax break. I think this is the wrong kind of message to send to people, that we would give tax breaks to registered sex offenders, but we never talk about tax breaks for elderly people or the working poor in our community. I want people to know that in this race, I'm an independent candidate. There are so many candidates for all the offices, but I'm not on any slates. I'm not hooked up with any other candidate in this campaign, and I take a lot of hits for all the courage it took to stand up, to make the cuts, to not raise your taxes, and it's been very difficult to say the least. And I want to let you know that I want to be your watchdog going forward because we've made all the hard decisions, and I don't want to lose the financial gains that we've made over the last 10 years. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you for hearing me today, and may God bless our city.
Thank you, Mark Steenberg. Finally, Carolyn Kurkowski-Mosheri will give the last closing statement.
Residents of Warren, thank you for your support in the primary election. With your continued support, we can start to repair the damage that has been done to our city in the last decade. I will work with the next mayor to restore our ambulance service. Anything the Treasurer's office can do to support that effort, I pledge I will do. Relationships between elected officials and residents will be restored to one of mutual respect and compassion. I will always invest your tax dollars wisely, but with an eye to investments that produce a gain. My opponent maintains that you cannot pay your tax bills online. We know that simply is not the truth. The Treasurer's Department has been online for 5 years. What's not online, as I said, is the Water Department. If the Treasurer's Department, I promise you, I will get the Water Department online so we can come into the 21st century. I am proud of my record of fighting for your interest in working to save your tax dollars and make our city a better place. For the past 4 years, I have been speaking out and voting against wasteful spending. And I will continue to do so as your treasurer. I will continue to scrutinize those expenditures. I will be working for you. And yes, I am proud to be endorsed by our local Warren professional firefighters and many of the groups and unions throughout the city. And I'm proud because they trust me with their money. Remember what has been taken away from you. Remember what has been taken and given to you without your vote in the name of progress. Without your right to vote for it. Remember the extravagant new City Hall. Remember the Veterans Pool in our Senior Center. Remember the debt the city has of over $120 million. And remember most all to vote November the 6th. Thank you, panel, for your questions. Thank you, Mr. Langton, for being our moderator. And thank you, Mr. Steenberg, for considering this debate with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn Kurkowski-Mosheri. And that will conclude the Treasurer's debate. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, panelists. And especially thank you, the audience. Remember, vote Tuesday, November 6th, 2007. From all of us here at TV Warren, I'm Charlie Langton. Good night.